I really started it because of being a mom and being really an advocate for breastfeeding and supporting other women. So it was a little bit of a terrifying moment back there, I guess almost 12 years ago. I took a leap of faith and I turned to my husband and I said, hey, listen, I've got to start this business. Now's the time.
Can you explain how breast pumps became a covered insurance benefit and why that actually changed everything for the industry?
They were always a rental item if you needed them. I think there was a senator out. She was trying to get it passed to have them a purchase item to get covered. The bill did go through, and women's health just keeps growing and growing and growing.
What kind of trends are you seeing right now in maternal health?
I'm really looking into pelvic floor therapy. I think that's an incredible product. There's some really amazing products in that category. Medicare just approved non-implantable pelvic floor stimulation, replacing the TENS unit code. I feel like getting the right breast pump is really important. My staff, we're all really into it. Just really educating the moms on which pump is best for her. They all sort of seem similar, but they're all a little different.
All right, we are live on the #1 DME podcast, Claim to Fame, and today we have a very special guest, Patty Gatter from the Breastfeeding Shop. Welcome to the show, Patty.
Thank you. It's the #1 podcast in the industry. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you, Patty. We're excited to have you here. Appreciate the time today.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So, Patty, I guess we kind of usually start off with just giving you a chance to explain a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your company, and then we can kind of get started to the rest of the podcast.
Sure. Well, I always start every sentence with "I'm a mom." That's my first identity. But I say that because that's really why I started the Breastfeeding Shop. I started it back in 2015. So have learned a lot of lessons and have grown the company working with a lot of different people through the years. But I really started it because of being a mom and being really an advocate for breastfeeding and supporting other women. So it was a little bit of a terrifying moment back there, and I guess almost 12 years ago. But I took a leap of faith and I turned to my husband and I said, hey, listen, I've got to start this business. Now's the time. So he gave me a thumbs up, and 12 years later, we are a national brand, which I'm really proud of. It gets me a little stressed out sometimes, managing everything, learning how to be a CEO and with a company that's growing, and it's just so many different iterations, but started it because being a mom and supporting breastfeeding.
That's amazing, Patty. And when most people think about DME, if you're not super embedded in our industry, your mind kind of typically goes to like wheelchairs, CPAP machines, bent metal. I don't think a lot of people realize that one of the fastest growing and most impactful categories is maternal health. And I feel like you saw that opportunity long before others did. Like you said, 12 years ago. What did you see that perhaps others missed, or kind of your thoughts on that in general?
Well, when the Affordable Care Act was passed, right, I knew that breast pumps were going to be a covered benefit, and they never were before. So I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit in me. And when my babies were really little, I had this idea of starting these online baby boutiques. So they weren't unsuccessful, but I really learned how to do social media marketing and such. So for me, I thought, listen, I know how to do the marketing component of it. That's my strong suit. And the Affordable Care Act is not going to be covering these breast pumps. So let me do what I'm best at. I've had experience selling DME. I worked for a company called Princeton Medical Equipment when I was fresh out of college. So I knew the industry, and then I worked for a manufacturer called Invacare, which I think they're still around, different iterations of what they sell now. But so I have experience on the DME and the manufacturing side, plus the baby boutique social media marketing type of stuff. So I just started to do what I did best, but I know that the typical bent metal, those sales calls were going to case managers at hospitals and things like that. What I recognized very early on is this is a consumer-driven product. So in my mind, we're a .com, we're a tech company first, and I just started doing online marketing myself, and I would go direct to the consumers, and then all of a sudden, and I would explain that the insurance covers a breast pump, and all of a sudden the patients or the moms would be going to their doctor's office saying, I need a prescription for a breast pump. And that's how we grew pretty quickly with that national awareness, because I chose to go on social media, talk about the benefit, and go direct to consumer. So I did it the opposite way traditional marketing went with DME. And I think that's happening more and more now, where companies are figuring out how to go more direct to consumer.
For sure. I feel like you're a bit ahead of the curve there. What were those early startup years like?
Those early startup years were trying a lot of different things and wearing a lot of different hats. I still wear a lot of different hats, but the early, just figuring the industry out, because although I'd worked for a DME company and I'd worked on the manufacturing side, starting a company I knew nothing about in this world. So just trying stuff, figuring out how to contract with insurance companies, figuring out how to bill. And, as soon as I started talking about the benefit, I had a goal of getting 50 pumps a month to be able to pay my bills. And within a couple months, because I was online talking about the benefit, it got really busy really quickly. And actually, one of the companies that I had worked for before, we maintained friends. They used to own a different DME company. And we were visiting. I couldn't even carry a sentence. And they said, do you want us to do your billing for you? And I said, that would be a great idea, because it was just starting to move very quickly. So putting together the platform and the workflow and just hiring the right people at the right time, it was just a lot of learning on the spot, which I love the grit. I still love the grit today.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, no, and that's really what it takes to be, a startup or an entrepreneur. Was there like a moment where you knew that this business was really going to work?
In July of 2015, 6 months after.
To be exact.
Exact, yes. Again, when I was floating along, getting all my credentialing and insurance contracts, it takes quite a few months. And I would check the numbers and I thought, okay, we got a couple orders today. And then all of a sudden we were getting 50 a day pretty quickly. It was very surprising how quickly the moms were eager to fill out those online forms, because my whole ordering process is right online. So, from start to finish. And it was surprising how quickly they really jumped on board. I think maybe because I was being authentic online and going on Facebook and doing Facebook Lives and going on YouTube, that they connected. Because I remember years ago, people would say, just order from Patty. It really wasn't about ordering from the breastfeeding shop. So we've kind of gotten away from that. And I want to get back to that this year. Right now, I've got a bigger team. And I love when founders connect with the customers.
Patty,
that goes a long way.
I'm out there, preaching the good word about you, because you even sent me one when my daughter was born in January. So that was awesome.
Congratulations. I hope it went well. It's going well. Yeah.
It was a rocky road leading up to it, but everything is amazing now. And I appreciate the kindness.
Oh, yeah.
I think it goes a long way, especially like in a world where like everything's AI, this, AI, that. Like the human element, I think, is even more impactful now than ever, which is you can't replace that with AI.
I agree. And some of the AI is getting so sophisticated that's almost difficult to see if it's AI. My kids, they're teenagers now, they can spot it right away, but it just keeps getting better every day. So I'm trying to really put my face forward and
love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well,
For sure. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of AI
Yeah.
slop. So the more authentic you can be these days, it really does, cut through the noise. There's so much people just putting out content for the sake of putting out content without it really having that sense of authenticity. And people can kind of smell it out these days,
Yeah, absolutely. I rely on my kids, again, who are teenagers, and I pick their brain when I'm trying to be very relevant to the even though we're dealing a lot with millennial moms, but it's still, they're right. They know all about this stuff. It's just ingrained in them.
Patty, for people outside of the industry, can you explain how breast pumps became a covered insurance benefit and why that actually changed everything for the industry?
Well, again, in 2014, they were starting to talk about the Affordable Care Act making coverage they were always a rental item if you needed them. But then I think there was a senator out, I was paying attention to the news and I had heard a lot of conversation, and she was trying to get it passed to have them a purchase item to get covered. And the bill did go through, and women's health just keeps growing and growing and growing. But it started January of 2015. And then some of the insurance companies, I contracted with the local insurance companies, and then I started contracting with TRICARE, and that's really where the brand became national. But it was really under the Affordable Care Act and approving the bill to get all moms covered. And again, it's just exciting to be part of women's health initiatives and all the things that go along with it. I always say we don't sell breast pumps, but we help women in their whole journey of healthcare, really.
Absolutely.
That's great. And what kind of trends are you seeing right now in maternal health today? I'm sure that there's maybe fads or different things you're seeing, and I'm just curious like what the trends are looking like.
Well, as far as the breast pumps go, they're covering things like valves and membranes, so the little things that really keep the pump going with the suction. They're little and they seem insignificant, but they really have a lot of control over the pump. So they just started being covered in January, which is great. The insurance companies take a little time to add it to their fee schedules and such, but so they're slowly adding new products. I'm really looking into pelvic floor therapy. I think that's an incredible product. There's some really amazing products in that category. And Medicare just approved non-implantable pelvic floor stimulation, replacing the TENS unit code. So I think, yeah, because female incontinence, right, it happens because of childbirth. So this is something that I really hope becomes a very strong product category. But as far as the breast pumps go, the wearable breast pumps are really popular now. I had the big blue box and I exchanged it with my sister-in-law when I was breastfeeding and breast pumping, but now they're little and they're compact and they're wearable. They're really so much cooler than they used to be. So, yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, one of the for the pelvic floor stuff, one of the manufacturers actually reached out to Nico Health recently, and a lot of them like to be on our podcast, so maybe I'll reach out and see if I can. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it could be a future episode for sure.
Can I say it? Yeah, I can say it. Can I say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Elotone?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Incredible product. Great.
Yeah, I'll have to double check, but yeah, we just had someone on that does Oculus headsets for pain management, so it's a lot of really interesting products out there and always interesting episodes. Question though, as far as like the consumer evolving, what do moms care about most these days when choosing a breast pump? I know they have a lot more options and they're cooler and more portable now. Is there any kind of trends you're seeing there when folks are shopping around?
I always feel like it's whatever the content creators are talking about. So, often they have a very different opinion about the right breast pump than the IBCLCs. So now this summer, I'm really excited about, it's always what's newest, right? And it keeps evolving. And there's a couple of manufacturers, they just keep pumping out new pumps like every week. It seems like they have got a new pump. But right now, the biggest thing coming is warming and massaging in a wearable way, which is really, really great. The wearable pumps don't always work for everybody. So I feel like the IBCLCs are starting to push more of the tabletop pumps, which is your more traditional style, and starting that conversation going. So I think wearable pumps keep evolving. The technology keeps getting, I don't know where they're going to go next. Now they're warming, now they're massaging, now they have a night light. So we'll see what happens next. I can't imagine what somebody would come up with, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, actually,
so I'm curious. Yeah, just going off what you were saying, that a lot of people are choosing what devices that they want based on like what creators are kind of, I guess, talking about online. So is there like an influencer community for this space? My algorithm definitely doesn't show me these things, so I wouldn't know. But I'm curious, is this like a whole underground that's going on like social media?
If you go on Facebook and you type up breast pumps, you're going to get served. Algorithm will start serving you ads. Probably serving.
I have not done that yet, but I will.
My phone is sitting right here on the charger, so it's probably listening.
Yeah,
I'll let you know what comes up later today.
Oh, it's a huge community. Like we had a post for the first time in 12 years go viral on TikTok. It wasn't me, but it was I think she was a doula or a midwife, but she was explaining the different size babies. So I'm so excited to see a post. But the online community talking about breast pumps is
interesting.
Huge.
So do you like influencer marketing and find other, I guess people in the space that are willing to talk about your products or, products that you sell and then kind of work in partnership with them?
Yeah, it's a huge thing.
Interesting. Sure. Cool. Mm-hmm. Cool. I noticed that you talk a lot about like removing barriers for mothers. What are some of those barriers that people maybe don't always see?
Barriers as far as the conversation around breast pumps and such, or what kind of?
Sure, yeah.
Well, I think, I forget because I've been doing this for so long to explain to moms that breast pumps are covered through insurance. So a lot of people don't know that. To me, I just did a video yesterday and I said, my new social media team said, do a video that breast pumps are actually covered. So, a lot of times I'm very thankful that they are covered, because a few $100s to some people is going to be a decision maker whether or not they're actually going to breastfeed. And a lot of moms really want to give it a shot. So I feel like getting the right breast pump is really important. And at the breastfeeding shop, not that this is a sales pitch for the breastfeeding shop, but my staff, we're all really into it, sometimes too much. We'll call each other on the weekends and I'll say, let's take a day off. But just really educating the moms on which pump is best for her. They all sort of seem similar, but they're all a little different. And they might be better. One might be better for one mom versus another. So if we can have those conversations, I hope that's us contributing to moms that might be struggling a little bit.
Yeah, and obviously pregnancy and postpartum can be overwhelming. How important is it to actually have a company that understands the patient journey?
I mean, I think it's really important because you hear a little bit about everybody out there. We're all friends. Have a lot more competition than I used to years ago, but we all know each other and respect each other and are really trying to advocate for this whole industry for women's health. But just getting to the mom and having those conversations, letting her know that we are available to have those, I think and that's why I try to go online and try to get in front of the moms. And I have an amazing social media team starting those conversations, but just helping explain the differences, how to get a breast pump, how easy it is to use. It's a little bit of a different landscape now. We can reach out to the doctor's office. A lot of moms don't have their breast pump prescription in hand. So everybody just wants everything easy, right? So I focused the business on how easy can this be for the new moms. So the easier, the better, the quicker, the better, even if they're 27 weeks. Sometimes, they want that breast pump now. So you right away. So
Right.
I guess they like to learn about it. And I don't know.
That kind of is something that we hear on other episodes that we do, where everyone kind of wants this sort of Amazon-like experience where they can get it fast, they can see reviews, they can understand what they're going to get before they get it. And that kind of parlays into my next question. How much does e-commerce, how much has it changed the patient experience since you started?
Yeah, I mean, years ago, we could just take about 2 weeks to process the order and everybody was fine with it. But now the quicker, the better. We have to be quick. And some of the tech products that I've introduced, and that's the reason why I wanted to introduce Nico, because they have some really cool products and we're just getting started with you guys, but it's a beautiful platform. It's really modern. And that's a great plug for Nico, because I've been wanting to change over for a while, but it just suits our sort of vibe and getting everything out timely and quickly, and the resupply programs and all that kind of stuff. It just has to be quick. For whatever reason, it has to be an Amazon-like experience. So whether we're doing an SMS campaign or an email campaign, and communication with the patients, just trying to figure out how to communicate with them. You can't just send an email anymore. Nobody looks at their emails. I don't even look at my emails. So kind of have to adjust with the times.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that plays and thank you for the shout out. It's always appreciated. But I feel like even that, and now I just thought it was super interesting, the creator side of this, because it's definitely different than other product lines in DME, right? So I just find all that super interesting. But kind of looking outside of that, what does success look like to you beyond just simply shipping medical equipment?
I love helping. To me, I feel so, if I can't help a mom, every once in a while I'll have to jump in and I'll have to help a mom directly myself, because I take a lot from that. But I feel like, expanding, and I don't get a lot of chance to do that anymore, only because I'm, running the company rather than I'm running the company. I'm not in the weeds doing the day-to-day anymore. Mm-hmm. But I have to jump in every once in a while to do that because it makes me really happy. But selling more breast pumps and building those connections and just getting out there more and introducing new products. But it's just, of course, it's dominating the breast pump market, right? That I'm competitive by nature. But it's interesting growing a business, because the business just has continued to grow year after year after year. So I've had to figure out how to compensate for that, and I'm not going to downsize so it can kind of stay mom and pop. Yeah. I'm just going to keep going straight up.
Right.
So
love that. That's great. Mm-hmm. And I know obviously we talked about sort of the experience changing and people wanting faster products and, delivered to their house and everything like that. And I'm assuming that there's probably a lot of opportunities for innovation. I was curious, in your opinion, where do you see the biggest opportunities for innovation in this space?
Well, if the insurance companies would just listen to me, I'm really bad. But there's a lot coming in women's health, and I think that is just going to keep expanding. And I love that. So I feel like the innovation and the product, like Wayne had mentioned about, there's I think it's Nervio or something like that helps with headaches. So I'm always looking for more products to add that can make everyone's lives healthier and feel better. So I feel like I'm always trying to read and go to relevant trade shows to see what are the products out there, and then hope that the insurance companies are going to want to pay for it. Sometimes we're at odds with each other.
Totally get that. And you're obviously a female founder in healthcare. What has that journey been like? Obviously there are other female founders, but I would assume that it's maybe not as prevalent, but I'm curious what that journey has been like for you.
It's been great. I mean, it's just like the way I'm made. I don't think about it a whole lot. Sometimes I went to a Salesforce conference in New York. I love Salesforce too. There's a great plug for that. But it doesn't, I know it's female, there are not as many female founders as male founders, right? But I'm not usually highly focused on that. But then when I look around and go, there's not really many women here. And then I kind of start thinking about it. But I just work. I just work, and talk to whoever. And, I know that female founders I'm bootstrapped, but, I know that I pay attention to some female entrepreneur groups and such out there, and that we're underfunded and all that kind of stuff. But, I think if you can prove yourself anywhere, that's just what you have to do. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, just prove yourself and keep going, and you're going to have success.
Right on.
Yeah, and Patty, you mentioned creating opportunities for women to grow and lead. Why is that so important to you?
I think we have a different skill set that's very complementary to men. We operate a little bit differently, and I think that it's important because I feel like sometimes women don't have the confidence, and this is a whole conversation that I could go on for hours about, but I feel like, and we're busy, we're the ones that have kids, so running a household and being a mom and running a business, those things those are a lot of challenges. My husband came on board, we love working together. It's really fun. He has a completely different skill set than I have. I'm creative. I love sales and marketing, and that's my happy space. He's more technical, and the two of us. I asked. He was in IT and in computers and all that kind of stuff. So once the business started to get going, I said, "Hey Jim, want to quit your job and come work for the breastfeeding shop?" And he said it he's absolutely. And
That's
the two
awesome.
of us, because of our personalities and our complementary skill set, have just taken it next level. So
That's awesome.
amazing.
Great story.
Yeah, usually like when you are starting a business, you always want your partner to have skill sets that you don't have, and that's pretty convenient that it happens to be your husband.
yeah, we work together all the time. So
That's
on the
crazy.
weekends, it's like, I don't want to go out to dinner with you. No thanks.
Right.
'Cause
Like, what else do we have to talk about? We
talk about
talked
work.
about it already. Yeah, you talk about work the whole time. Yeah.
We can talk about the lover of gold heels Alex found online.
I have so many gold heels. Yes. But funny because having kids, we talk about work all the time. When you're an entrepreneur, you're obsessed with it. It's my baby. And sometimes the kids are like, are you talking about work still? Please stop
Yeah.
talking about work. So we have to be cognizant that we're just not talking about work all the time in front of them. And then when they go to bed, then we start talking about work again.
Totally get that. And I'm assuming, there's probably other either entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that are listening to this, and I'm sure they would want to hear some advice from you and just kind of like what it takes to be a startup, or what advice would you give to someone who's trying to start a healthcare business today, really?
Trying to start a healthcare business. Oh gosh, there's so many things. Starting a business, you've got to do the grit. You've got to do I call it unfun stuff to get to the fun stuff. It's just the way it is. You can't ignore that stuff. And sometimes you've got to fight against feeling a little, I don't want to do that. I have those conversations with myself all the time, but just really researching and studying up beforehand and reaching out to peers or people, like-minded businesses, and really, but we're here to help. I'll help anybody. If anybody's out there that wants to start a healthcare business, I'm pretty much an open book. So just really learning and taking the time to, and then do it. Don't be afraid, just do it. Don't let anything hold you back. You got to be a little fearless and put in the hard work. There's a lot of long days, but when my kids were little, if I wanted to go to their concert at school or something like that, I could always do that. But put in the hard work, don't be afraid, and have to deal with the unfun stuff sometimes to get to the fun stuff, if that makes sense.
It does.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, good.
Kind of looking ahead, Patty, where do you think maternal health is headed over the next 5-10 years looking forward?
I feel like it's going to keep growing in awareness. There's certain pilot programs like doula coverage, which is great. Lactation, I think that's going to keep going. A lot of platforms online in maternal health, I feel like those are going to be growing. It'll be very interesting to see actually what's going to happen. I think more products are going to be covered slowly, for women's health, like the Ellatone or different things like that. There's a conference up in Massachusetts that I try to go to. It's Women of Wearables, I think it's called, and they're always talking about new innovations. But I feel like it's going to keep going, and new products, some new innovation with the breast pumps. We'll see what that looks like. But yeah, we'll see how far it goes and what's covered. We'll see.
Awesome. I think that's a good place to put a pin in it. We like to kind of end with the big picture questions, but before we let you go, I don't know if you've heard any of the rapid fire sections that we've done, but that's kind of the grand finale here. So it's kind of like a this or that, no brain buster, just some fun, easy questions for you. Let us know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm always ready.
Table pumps or wearable pumps?
Tabletop pump.
Gold heels or sneakers?
Oh my gosh. What are sneakers? Gold heels.
They're sneakers. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird, 4 a.m.
If you weren't in healthcare, what would you be doing?
Oh, if I weren't, I'd be starting some other business. I'd always be starting a business. That's all I love to do. Yeah. Or what I'd be doing?
A shoe company.
Or maybe a margarita hut and some island somewhere.
Ooh.
I don't know. Something like that.
Heck yeah. Guilty pleasure TV show.
Guilty pleasure TV show. I love the Brady Bunch still. I know that might be aging me a little bit, but I love Goonies. That's a movie, but I like the Selling Sunset show too. It's a real estate show. I love real estate shows. They're so much fun to watch.
And last one, window seat or aisle?
Window seat.
Done. Easy.
Boom.
Crushed it.
Patty, thanks so much for joining. This is a fun episode. And if anyone wants to contact you, find out more about your website or your company, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
My email, patty@thebreastfeedingshop.com, or even my cell phone, if that's okay to say. Is that all right?
People have done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
People have done it. Yeah.
It always rings, so why not have it ring more? 908-581-2153.
Awesome. Thanks,
Patty,
Patty.
thanks so
Can't thank
much.
you enough. This was a great episode.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.